Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. My name's Helen Elletson, and it's my privilege to be the Curator of Research and Development at the William Morris Society. As many of you will know who have seen our Coffee with a Curator coffee morning talks before, the Society exists to promote the life and work of this great Victorian. And as well as organising events and lectures, our members receive magazines and journals showcasing the prolific output of Morris, as well as research on his associates in the circle. The Society's premises are in the lower floors of Kelmscott House, Morris's home for the last 18 years of his life. And our museum and shop are open every Thursday and Saturday between 2 and 5 p.m. We're fortunate to have a wonderful collection of Morris & Company works, including wallpapers, textiles, Kelmscott press books and archived material. These Coffee with a Curator short talks were launched with the idea of raising awareness of the Society's diverse collections, focusing on a different object or theme each time. So it's a great pleasure to welcome you to this morning's talk, which aims to highlight the importance of carpets at Kelmscott House. And during the next half hour, we'll explore Morris's own outstanding collection of Persian carpets, the way he displayed them in his riverside home, and how this led to his role as historic textile advisor to the South Kensington Museum, and his successful endeavours at mastering the ancient art of hand knotting himself. And it was this latter which resulted in Morris's groundbreaking role when founding the Hammersmith Carpet Workshops, and thereby creating the highly prized works of art that were inspired by the exquisite patterns and profound beauty of the historic Persian carpet, bringing it all full circle. The Victorian age saw a growing awareness and knowledge of the Orient, which provided the impetus for a newfound interest in ancient Eastern design and traditional craftsmanship. Additionally, ancient Oriental carpets were just then being imported in large quantities, and this coincided with Morris, Marshall, Faulkner and Company's expansion into carpet production. This was a natural progression for the firm, as William Morris had long been fascinated in the art of the medieval age and the beautiful patterns created at that time. The firm sold a varied range of floor coverings, including linoleum and machine-woven carpets, although it is their hand-knotted carpets that became so highly prized and admired. Morris himself acknowledged that his hand-knotted rugs were superior in every way. Morris was acutely aware of the threat to traditional crafts of the East by European commercialism and advancements in new technology, leading him to become a passionate advocate of Oriental textiles and a huge admirer of Persian carpets in particular, believing that they were the greatest carpets ever made. Persians were among the pioneering carpet weavers of ancient times and influenced design all over the world. Morris studied the techniques of their production as well as their history. Morris had begun purchasing historical rugs as early as the 1850s, creating his own private museum. Although Morris continued to collect ancient carpets with great enthusiasm throughout his life, the fascination reached its peak when he moved to Kelmscott House in Hammersmith. Morris used the finest examples to decorate his home, particularly layering Persian rugs on top of his own Morris & Company carpets, as we can see here, creating an eclectic mixture of styles that became the hallmark of the true arts and crafts interior. And here we can see on the floor in Morris's drawing room at Kelmscott House, the Morris & Company machine woven tulip and lily carpet with a couple of Persian rugs on top there. In March 1876, Morris wrote to his daughter May about a recent purchase of Persian rugs, claiming, "It will make you feel as if you were in the Arabian Nights." Morris has even used a Persian rug, as we can see here, to cover the table at the far end of this room. And there's a lovely mixture of styles, as I mentioned, with Morris's own bird hangings on the walls, with the peacock and dragon central sort of dividing curtain to divide the room into two. And then we've got Japanese inspired fans, Morris's china in the cabinets there at the far end, as well as some brassware and other ceramics there. So a real eclectic mixture. And here we have a close-up of Morris's drawing room. There's two fireplaces in the room, and this is one again with Morris and Company tiles. And we can see again a variety of Persian influences with the rugs on top of the tulip and lily carpet, as displayed alongside his own products, including this beautiful settle designed by Philip Webb that's now at Kelmscott Manor, and a Morris and Company adjustable back chair, also designed by Philip Webb on the left-hand side, with Morris's collection of china there on top of the fireplace. Unusually for Western fashion, Morris also displayed carpets on the walls, becoming an integral part of his interior decoration. Morris wrote, "Its use as a floor cloth degrades it, especially in northern and western countries, where people come out of the muddy street into rooms without taking off their shoes." It was this stunning 17th century Persian carpet in the dining room at Kelmscott House that made such an impression on all who saw it. In her memoirs, May Morris recalled the impact it made on her, writing, "This side of the room had more than a touch of the 1001 Nights, for above this table of Eastern riches rose up a carpet spread like a canopy across the ceiling." Fine Oriental carpets were, as Morris believed, not to be trodden on with hobnail boots, as he said. And George Bernard Shaw, a friend and regular visitor, concurred, saying, "It would have been a sin to walk on it. Consequently, it was not on the floor, but on the wall and halfway across the ceiling." This Kerman vase carpet was the first Safavid piece Morris had seen, purchasing it in Paris in 1877, a year before moving to his Hammersmith home, where it was displayed. It sums up Morris's opinion, expressed in his 1882 lecture, Hopes and Fears for Art, when he said, "Persian art at its best carries the art of pattern designing to its utmost perfection." The excellence of this sort of work lies in a clear but soft relief of the form, in colours each beautiful in itself and harmonious one with the other, on ground whose colour is also beautiful though unobtrusive. And here we can see the carpet alongside this very atmospheric image of Morris's dining room taken by his close friend and associate Emery Walker. It therefore seemed a natural development for Morris to put his love of Persian carpets a step further by learning the ancient art of hand knotting carpets himself, exclaiming, "I am dazzled at the prospect of the splendid work we might turn out in that line." Therefore, in 1879, just a year after moving to Hammersmith, Morris converted his coach house, which is to the left of this image of Kelmscott House with a semicircular roof there. That's the coach house. He converted that into the weaving workshop of Morris and Company and began reviving the practice of hand knotting. And here we can see the interior of the coach house at Kelmscott House. We don't have any photographs of this very early time of the hand knotting of the carpet. We only have this later image, again taken by Emery Walker, And this was taken at the time the Hammersmith Socialists were meeting in the coach house after it was transformed from the weaving workshops. At this period in time, there were no other contemporary manufacturers working on the scale that Morris envisaged, and there had never been a successful long-term business producing hand-knotted carpets here, making Morris a real pioneer in the field. And as I mentioned, this room was set up for the Hammersmith Socialist lectures, which took place on a Sunday evening at Kelmscott House. And at the far end is the platform where the stage area was, where the speaker used to give their lectures. So there's 3 steps up there at the far end of the room. If those of you that have been to Kelmscott House will recognise the room. And now when we did have our lectures before the pandemic, and hopefully we will again, we've changed the orientation to the speaker stands at the opposite end of the room. But in Morris's day, the speaker was near the garden, the back garden of Kelmscott House. And again, here we can see in May Morris's watercolour of the coach house, again, those 3 steps there, the 2 steps leading up to the platform where the speaker later was going to speak when it was transformed into the meeting hall. But this is the only known image we have of the weaving workshops at Kelmscott House, this beautiful watercolour by Morris's younger daughter, May. And here you can see the looms and the basket on the left-hand side full of all those brightly coloured yarns there that would be used for the weaving. And later on, we do know that some of the carpets were removed from the loom and laid out on the carpet at the back there at Kelmscott House to be admired. And this photograph here shows the female weavers hand knotting at the looms a little bit later on when they moved to Merton Abbey in 1881. Women were preferred for this work, and the company employed at least 6 women at any one time. The design point paper, which indicates the design and colour of each knot, was pinned as a guide to the front of the loom. The weavers faced the front of the work, and each weaver produced around 2 inches of carpet a day. The carpets were woven at a thickness of 25 knots to the square inch by binding a 2-inch long thread of wool around 2 warp threads, with the ends brought through the middle to the front. A visitor described the scene in an article published in The Spectator, writing, "Rows of bobbins of many-coloured worsteds stuck on pegs shower down threads of beautiful colours which are caught by the deft fingers, passed through strong threads, fixed uprightly in frames to serve as a foundation, tied in a knot, slipped down in their place, snipped even with the rest of the carpet, all in a second of time." These early carpets bear the Hammersmith symbol in one corner, showing that they were made in Morris's own home. So here we have an example from the Society's own collection. And on the right-hand corner there, you can see the hammer for Hammersmith and the upside down M for Morris. There were variations on this mark. Some of them include the addition of waves in the centre of the hammer to represent the Thames. Many of these designs were inspired by the ancient Persian examples from Morris's own collection. And a leaflet issued by Morris and Company stated, "We people of the West must make our own handmade carpets if we are to have any worth the labour and money such things cost. And that these, while they should equal the Eastern ones in material and durability, should by no means imitate them in design, but show themselves obviously to be the outcome of modern and Western ideas, guided by those principles that underlie all architectural art in common." This pronouncement shows Morris's continuing determination to avoid the uncreative imitation of historical styles, however attractive in themselves, but to incorporate elements from historical sources when they could extend his own art. As we've seen here in the Society's own example, rather than copying the historical examples he admired so much, Morris was more inspired by them to create his own unique carpet designs. Morris wrote at great length on the subject of designing and making hand-knotted carpets, and his lectures explore this more than almost any other textile subject. His knowledge extended to the history of carpets from around the world, particularly China, Turkey, and Persia, showing his expertise on colour, design, and the different techniques employed. Morris strongly believed that patterns should have a story, writing, "I, as a Western man and picture lover, must still insist on plenty of meanings in your patterns. I must have unmistakable suggestions of gardens and fields and strange trees, boughs and tendrils, or I can't do with your patterns." Here we have alternating sprigs of red and pale blue leaves in a dark brown border, surrounding a camel-coloured inner border around a deep blue central ground containing a symmetrical design of 3 beautiful floral motifs. This is a wonderful example showcasing Morris's successful attempt at bringing the art of the East to his own home. Even when away from the house, Morris longed to return to these practical crafts, writing to Georgiana Burne-Jones in 1879, "Lord bless us, how nice it will be when I can get back to my little patterns and dyeing and the dear warp and weft at Hammersmith." When orders for larger carpets arrived and the premises were outgrown at Kelmscott House, the carpet workshops moved to Merton Abbey on the banks of the River Wandle in 1881. The number of rugs made at Kelmscott House before the move to Merton Abbey is unknown, but likely to be a relatively limited number in the 2.5 years they were there. So the Society is very fortunate to have 2 examples in its collection. Here we have the second, smaller example. Although the carpets continue to be known as Hammersmith carpets when they moved to Merton Abbey, they no longer had bore the identification mark identifying them as being made at Kelmscott House. So you'll no longer see that hammer and the M on these. Morris's designs continue to complement the historical examples he admired so much, and they became an integral part of a Morris and Company interior. Likely due to the cost of Hammersmith carpets, they were not used to decorate Kelmscott House, as it did not make economic sense to remove from stock an item classed as an individual work of art when it could be sold. So as seen here, Hammersmith carpets were incredibly hard wearing. We know that this example was in a bedroom and used on a daily basis, yet it survived in remarkably good condition. It's just the more delicate fringing at the edges that show the years of regular wear and tear. The central tree design is encased within a red and cream checkered border within a vibrant blue outer border. The rich colours have retained their beautiful intensity. Morris himself designed a great majority of these carpets, with John Henry Dell responsible for a proportion. And I thought it'd be interesting to take a brief look at a few other Hammersmith carpets. So I've selected those that became very famous for their beauty and Persian inspiration. Large Hammersmith carpets were woven for a series of interior commissions for some of the grandest properties, including this Holland Park carpet. Woven in 1883, this carpet represents a turning point in Morris's style, with a more traditionally Persian format. From this time onwards, many of Morris's carpets showed quartered designs based around a central medallion. And it's no coincidence that this development occurred in the same year that Morris was asked to advise the South Kensington Museum on the acquisition of a group of Persian carpets offered by a Bond Street dealer. Colour, as well as design, was of paramount importance to Morris. In Arts and Crafts Essays in 1893, Morris wrote, "In the many coloured printed cloths, frank red and shades of blue are again the mainstays of the colour arrangement. And in Arts and Crafts Essays in 1893, Morris wrote, "In the many coloured printed cloths, frank red and blue are softened by the paler shades of red, outlined with black and made more tender by the additions of yellow in small quantities. Mostly forming part of brightish green, make up the colourings of the old Persian prints, which carry the art as far as it can be carried." Likewise, the Hammersmith hand-knotted carpets often have blue as the background in the central area and red in the borders. It was the ancient use of natural plant and vegetable dyes that Morris brought back into use after the Victorians had widely adopted newer synthetic chemical dyes. Morris utilised the plant dye madder and the insect dyes cochineal and kermes for red shades and indigo for blue. The Holland Park carpet was Morris's most popular carpet design, with at least 6 examples created. Inspired by his study of Persian rugs, the Carbrook carpet uses Morris's usual network of trailing leaves as a background to the main focus of large Persian-inspired medallions and palmettes, which Morris had studied at the South Kensington Museum, describing the historic Persian rugs he saw there as being designed in the heyday of medieval art. The glorious Swan House carpet has a central medallion with a magnificent border of repeating palmettes, closely resembling the precision of traditional Oriental designs. Morris believed that, however original the designer might be, he could not afford to disregard the works of art that were produced in times past when design was flourishing. One of Morris's last carpet designs was the wonderful Bullerswood. This striking textile contains an exuberant combination of almost every motif devised by Morris for carpets, and is widely considered the grandest of all the hand-knotted Hammersmith carpets. The textile expert Linda Parry has called it one of the most original and exciting carpets produced in the West. It is not an overstatement to claim that Morris and Company produced some of the finest hand-knotted carpets ever to have been manufactured in Britain. And it was thanks to Morris's extensive knowledge of the history of Eastern carpets that he was appointed as a member of the Committee of Art Referees from 1884 until his death in 1896 at the South Kensington Museum, now known as the V&A. Widely acknowledged as an expert, Morris's opinion was sought when new purchases were considered. Shortly after his appointment, the museum purchased the first Middle Eastern carpet, a superb early 16th century Ushak example. The Chelsea carpet is composed of central and corner medallion devices, a composition which Morris had adopted in a number of his own carpet designs, as we've seen. The main field is filled with a rich landscape of flowers, trees, and wildlife. Morris wrote to a friend, "I saw yesterday a piece of ancient Persian that fairly threw me on my back. I had no idea that such wonders could be done in carpets." To Morris, all that was beautiful in Islamic art owed its inspiration, if not production, to Persia. As he said in his History of Pattern Designing lecture in 1882, "To us pattern designers, Persia has become a holy land, for there in the process of time our art was perfected, and thence above all place it spread to cover for a while the world, east and west." Morris greatly appreciated the patterns, colours and traditional techniques of Persian textiles, believing their designs were fertile of imagination and lovely in drawing. Morris's expert opinion was instrumental in the museum acquiring this immensely significant early piece, regarded as one of the most beautiful and most important Persian carpets to have survived from that period. And this really cemented Morris's reputation as an authority on historic Eastern textiles. It was also Morris's advice which resulted in the acquisition of the glorious Ardebille carpet in 1893. It was made as one of a matching pair for the shrine of the founder of the Safavid dynasty, Sheikh Safi al-Din Ardebille in the town of Ardebille in northwest Iran. The carpet is remarkable for its beautiful design and execution. It has a white silk warp and weft, and the pile is knotted in wool in 10 colours. The single huge composition that covers most of its surface is clearly defined against the dark blue ground, and the detailed blossoms and delicate tendrils are rendered with great precision. This was due above all to the density of the knotting. There are an average of 5,300 knots in every 10 square centimetres, which equates to 340 knots per square inch. And it would have taken about 4 years to weave the 2 carpets. This would have been reflected in the cost, suggesting it was probably for a royal commission. Measuring 38 feet long by 18 feet wide, the Ardebille is thought to be one of the largest carpets in the world, as well as being the oldest dated carpet in existence. This inscription by the weaver bears the date 946, which equates to 1542. In the 1870s, the shrine suffered an earthquake and both carpets were damaged. The carpets were then sold off and were purchased in Iran by Ziegler and Company, a Manchester firm involved in the carpet trade. Parts of one carpet were used to patch the other. The result was this complete carpet, which contains pieces from the other carpet, which is now smaller and without a border. In 1892, the larger complete carpet we see here was put on sale by Vincent Robinson and Company of London. In his letter of support for the purchase of this now world-famous carpet, Morris wrote, "The design is of singular perfection, logically and consistently beautiful." He went on to say that it was remarkable as a work of art. Its size and splendour as a piece of workmanship do full justice to the beauty and intellectual qualities of the design. And I am sure that it is far the finest Eastern carpet I have ever seen. Morris's report concluded by stating, "In short, I think it will be a real misfortune if such a treasure of decorative art were not acquired for the public." Thankfully, Morris's plea was instrumental in the case for buying the carpet, and the panel at the South Kensington Museum was convinced. The money was raised by public subscription, and in March 1893, the museum acquired the carpet for the then vast sum of £2,000, with Morris offering to contribute £20 himself. The second smaller carpet is now in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. The Ardebille carpet originally hung on the wall at the V&A for many years, and then in 2006, the V&A created this extraordinary case in the centre of the Jamil Islamic Gallery so that the carpet could be seen as intended on the floor. To preserve its colours, it is lit for 10 minutes on the hour and half hour, and I'd really recommend a visit. After Morris's death, his magnificent 17th century Persian carpet was offered to the V&A by his widow Jane for the then very reasonable price of £200, well below its market value. And it's now one of the treasures of the Islamic Gallery, displayed in a case on the far left of the photograph. So hopefully you can see between the 2 white pillars on the left-hand side is Morris's carpet from Kelmscott House. And it's very appropriate that it is in this gallery next to the Ardebille, because one of the most beautiful and historically important carpets in existence, which Morris was instrumental in saving for the nation. So to conclude, I'd like to emphasise that although Morris was profoundly influenced in it and inspired by the past, his carpet designs are no mere imitations. Morris warned that unless the study of the past was supplemented by a careful study of nature, the designer would fall into a sort of cut and dried conventional method of designing, producing mere pastiches of past designs. Morris successfully avoided this trap by combining his deep knowledge of traditional historic Persian structures and reinterpreting them with his own beautiful style, thereby producing uniquely imaginative textiles that continue to inspire to this day. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for your very kind comments and kind support of the William Morris Society, which is greatly appreciated. And we look forward to seeing you again at our next Coffee with a Curator talk, which will take place in October. And until then, hope you enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the summer. Thank you very much again.